I never know when people are watching me. There they are. Okay. How's everybody doing? All you people who have not appeared yet. And because of the huge YouTube lag. Hope everybody's doing well. And just waiting for people to make themselves manifest on my page. There we go. There is person number 1. Okay. I'm not going to start blabbing on things until I get an idea of, how many people are here. And so that I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. Of course, this is a live appearance that I wanted to do on Ketu conjuncting Mars. But I'm just wanting to see how many people pop in before I start talking, because then otherwise I just have to end up repeating myself over and over and over again. All right. So while we're waiting for people to get here, if anybody has any questions in general that they want to ask while we're just waiting, please feel free to do so, and I will endeavor to answer. I'm just looking at all the people that are appearing over here. I'm not meaning to be rude and be a poor host looking over here and looking over there, but just trying to see who all is popping in. Seems like there's a bigger lag than usual on this. Let me see if I can do a couple of things on my end that might speed that along a little bit. Hello to everybody who is now appearing. I've got my headset on tonight because I don't like losing my voice. And I do have a tendency to lose my voice after running my mouth for really long periods of time. Now we're beginning to get some people showing here. Okay, so, here's the situation, right? So there's a special thing I want to talk about tonight. But in addition to that, I'm not here to tell you things about your own horoscope. So please don't put things over in the thing about your own horoscope and expect me uh, to judge that. So Mars and K2 joined a month ago. So basically, Mars is moving direct now. All right. So, and there's a whole lot of things going on. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. Does Ketu conjunct with Mars encourage material manifestation necessary for achieving ultimate destined goal for current lifetime? Wow, that's quite a question. A lot of those things relate to dasha periods, really transits in terms of what they're going to create in your own particular chart. Basically, that depends upon what dasha you're in and what the transit itself is triggering in your own particular horoscope. So there's no straight across the board K2 conjuncting Mars encourages material manifestation. All right. So let's talk a little bit. And so I have people asking me questions over here about the Swamsha and stuff like that. We're going to get to that here, some other questions here in a moment. So who's feeling the pressure right now? Let's see that first of all. I know that I've been feeling a lot more pressure, especially the last day or so. There's been this energy of tension bottling up and then releasing and bottling up and releasing. And so basically, the last time Mars conjuncted K2, Mars, had been moving forward and then it went back retrograde. And now it's moving forward again, only it's beginning to gain some steam. And it's creating a lot more tension, I feel, this time around. And it's because we've got a lot of shifts that are happening in association with this particular conjunction between Mars and Ketu. Well, just recently, Mars has been retrograde, and now it's beginning to shift. And when Mars is retrograde in the first place, it can feel a bit frustrating to us because Mars is a planet that likes to be able to act, that likes to be able to act swiftly and have that energy create a concrete effect externally. And when it's retrograde, all that action has to get internalized. And it places us in a position where we do a lot of deep and intense soul searching, but mixed in with that, when you have energy, or even when you have anger, which is related to Mars, and it's internalized, it can sometimes begin to feel a little bit repressed. And equally, it can make you as an individual feel somewhat depressed, because really depression is quite often relates to a lack of motivation, right? Depression quite often deals with energy that you want to move, but it can't really move. So a retrograde Mars can tend to create that. And now that Mars is beginning to gain some steam, all of that energy is releasing. And recently, we also had a retrograde period with Saturn, and now Saturn is beginning to slowly but surely edge forward. For all intents and purposes, really, it's still kind of stationing, because Saturn, when it begins to pick up steam, it begins to pick up steam rather slowly. Okay. And so that kind of adds to the frustration, because you've got this Mars energy that's really kind of raring to go. Okay. And you've got this Saturn energy that's still kind of plodding along, not fast enough. And it's creating a lot of tension, and it's creating a lot of frustration. And when you have that Mars coming into close proximity with Ketu, Ketu has this tendency to make the planets that it contacts become, well, somewhat erratic. And in addition to that, even though Ketu is the planet that can provide for our liberation, Ketu is also the planet that is responsible for suppression of energy. Okay. So when Ketu's conjuncting Mars, quite often there's an area, or sometimes areas, of life where one part of us wants to take action, but we end up having a lot of I want to use the phrase heroic fantasies about those things that we can do, but quite often we hold ourselves back from doing it. And then when you've held yourself back long enough, then it begins to be like a pressure cooker. And so you let off the steam immediately, right? And then you begin to judge yourself for letting off that steam in that particular area of your life. And you go, well, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And then that causes you to reflect more, and then it may cause you to suppress that Mars energy a little bit more, and then it'll release again. And it's like this energy of build, release, build, release. And a lot of it relates to, of course, because Ketu is going to be conjuncting Mars in Shravana Nakshatra. And with Shravana Nakshatra, because Shravana Nakshatra is connected to the moon, a lot of the energy that's related to that can be up and down, because the moon's energy obviously changes more than any other planet. And so it places you in a position where, on a certain level, you feel like you should intuitively move forward with a particular set of plans, but then you begin to feel like that wasn't such a good idea. And then maybe you should do that. And then you see all sorts of different ways that you could approach a situation. You could either kick back on your heels and not approach it, or you could go at it wholeheartedly. And for lack of a better way to put it, it places you in a position where you don't really know which of those things to do. So if you're feeling the tension, that's why. And one of the things I wanted to tell you about is it's going to intensify, most especially between the 23rd of this month and the 2nd of October. You can look for the tension between Ketu and Mars to intensify. And then on the 26th of September, we've got the exact conjunction between Ketu and Mars. So if you're having a hard time with this tension, if you feel compelled to do so, please do feel free to visit my Astrological Services page and schedule a consultation with me. I think I actually have some slots coming up within the next week right? I generally am busy all the time, but I'm usually never booked more than 2 weeks ahead at a time. So there's always, a good chance that you can get in a consultation really soon. So that's if you go to authenticastrology.com and look for the astrological services link, that will take you to that page. And if you also look down in the video, there's a link directly to that page. Let's see some questions that people have. And please also feel free to, share some of the energy that's going on for you. Okay. So Ketu conjuncting Mars in the 11th house. That's another thing that I wanted to talk about, is with this energy, there's a tone on the individual level. Let's talk the individual level of going, right, is the action that I take, is that going to be considered socially acceptable? Is that a socially acceptable action to take? Is that action going to bring me the approval that I want? And I only say that when somebody said K2 conjuncting Mars in the 11th house. Well, the 11th house will tend to bring very similar energy. Are the actions that I'm going to take be met with approval by my peers? Right? Am I really seeing this situation from a broad perspective? I don't know. I don't know if I'm seeing this situation from a broad perspective. So one part of me wants validation that this is the right thing to do. And I look for that validation from my peers in order to see if that's something that's socially acceptable. Right. But at the same time, in order to move in the direction that you might be feeling the fire or the impulse to move in, you might find yourself in a position where you've got to make some sacrifices. Don't worry if you do have to make those sacrifices, because those sacrifices that you make will be worth it. So somebody's asking, is K2 conjuncting Mars good for spirituality? It can be good for spirituality dependent upon the chart. And here's the thing that people quite often don't understand about Ketu. Ketu is a very spiritual planet. It's a planet that gives liberation, but the way that it gives liberation is by us overcoming all those different things that Ketu prompts us to suppress. Ketu, on one level, speaking psychologically, will relate to a lot of conditioned behavioral patterns that individuals quite often have ingrained into their psyche from when they were children. Interestingly enough, that's likely something that they're carrying in from previous births. And then they choose the particular family that they're born into so that those conditions can be created so that they can integrate what they need to learn on this cosmic journey. But at the same time, we have to be willing to explore where Rahu is. Rahu has recently been in Ashadha Nakshatra, and it's very soon going to shift into Pusha Nakshatra, right? So in association with this, in association with the shift forward, there's a sacrifice that may be necessary. You may have to, in order to make the shift that you've been looking to shift, accept a certain level of restriction upon your path. So in short, is it good for spirituality? It can be, because it can teach us a proper level of restraint. But restraint means nothing if we don't know how to harness our will effectively. Otherwise, we're just taking energy and we're bottling it up. And bottling energy is never a good thing to do, right? It's never a good thing to do. It's energy that you want to allow to healthily flow. So Ketu can have a tendency to bottle planets up and then release them suddenly, and then bottle it up and release them suddenly with any planet that it comes into contact with. Okay, so let's see some of the other questions here. Who wins the war now, Mars or Ketu? Well, it's not about who's winning a war. It's not that the planets have to have a battle with each other. And in regards to planetary war is based upon observation and where an individual is on a particular level of the planet. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. And if you study a lot of the classical texts, you'll find that there's really a more complex calculation for planetary war than a lot of people work with. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. If there are natal planets in Shravana Nakshatra, it will definitely trigger those natal planets, and it will definitely kind of stimulate that energy. Okay. Yeah, so somebody's saying this conjunction's in their fifth house on their natal Venus creates a lot of inner tension trying not to explode. That's likely something that everybody is going to be feeling right now. There's this build up, release. And so, where you're looking at not to explode, the important thing to understand is well, that's a good thing. Try not to explode, but also recognize that you have to find a healthy outlet for that Mars energy. It's not just about restraining yourself. Okay, because restraining yourself isn't going to be helpful either. So, just another reminder, if you're interested, you can schedule an astrological service with me. If you're having a hard time dealing with these particular transits, those are available through the astrological services page of my website. And sometimes I do this when I'm on here, and I'm going to do it again. I am offering a discount if you would like a 10% discount on consultations. Ideally, so let me just type it in first. VIEWERS. Oops, I typed it in wrong. That should give you a 10% discount off of astrological services. When you schedule, if you just enter that code on the payment page, I think it's viewers. I know it sounds really kind of random, but if that doesn't deduct 10% and it would become apparent, try viewer. Okay. All right. So, if you want to schedule with me, that's a discount that is available to you. And in addition to that, I'm going to leave that discount open until 10 p.m. on the 12th. Okay. All right. What will be its effect on the stock market? Well, it depends on individual stocks and everything like that. And I'm not really going to go into that here. Okay. Because there's a lot of impact of transits. Sure, the transits can create an effect on something overall. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing transit videos. But for one person, it might have more of an effect on their investment than on another person because it depends upon what's getting kind of triggered in the individual's chart. Okay. So do Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune have importance? They definitely have importance, but interestingly enough, you can find a lot of similar energies just by working with the nodes. And basically, in terms of Vedic astrology, the energy that Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune creates tends to be played out through the nodal axis anyway. And the reason for that being is Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are not visible planets, unless you have a telescope, of course, and a very high-powered telescope at that. And equally, Rahu and Ketu are not visible planets, but they're planets that have, and they're not planets really, they're points in the sky that create eclipses, but they have a visible representation when we have eclipses. So Rahu and Ketu kind of act like a bridge for Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Okay? All right. Let's see what else we've got here in the question and answer section. Okay, so any transit is going to be related. So, somebody was asking, how does this energy look like with Ketu in the 10th house in Aries and Rahu in Libra in the 4th house with Pluto? Well, it depends upon the angles that are being formed. It depends upon your own individual Mahadasha that you're in and Antardasha. So I don't want to go too deeply into that because it would lead to me to giving you an incorrect prediction. The best thing to do really would be to schedule an astrological service with me. And that's going to give you the clearest answer because then I can look at your entire horoscope. Okay, so somebody's saying, does this conjunction affect relationship, like triggering divorce or someone going to get married? It can, dependent upon the person's horoscope. So, if it's interacting with this first and seventh axis, it might do that if the person's in a dasha period that's supporting the agenda for that happening. Really, transits are very dasha specific in terms of what they're going to create for an individual. Okay. I'm Virgo ascendant. Can this time help learn martial arts for self healing, anger management to become more centered? Most definitely. Most definitely, but you might find it a little bit hard to kind of anchor that energy during this time. But really, on a certain level, that's good because it's going to make it so that when you if you're working with that energy during a period where the energy of Mars is very erratic in the first place, then the discipline that you're able to do during this time will eventually mean that you have a stronger handle on your Mars. And so that's a good thing. Okay. I'm going to take a drink, everybody. By the way, everyone, for those of you who are interested, I have released a couple of new courses that are available on my website. One course is on Rahu and Ketu and how to work with Rahu and Ketu in a horoscope, how to interpret things appropriately. It includes information on Rahu and Ketu through the Rashis, through the houses, through the nakshatras, how to give a karmic reading for an individual. And you can purchase this course either in sections or in full through my website on the courses link. Somebody keeps asking several times over if I can do a collaboration with someone. I might do that. It just depends. I kind of let things flow and figure out when I'm going to do that, okay? Because I have to kind of make it match with my calendar, the other person's calendar. So it's kind of tricky like that. Do transits of planets depend on person's natal planetary strength? Yeah, that's a good question. If you have a strong relationship to a planet already, that can sometimes make transits of that planet a little bit easier. But Ashtaka Varga is also an important point to consider. So does this transit affect people more that already have the Mars Ketu conjunction in their birth chart, or does it not really matter? Well, if it's triggering the Mars Ketu point in their birth chart, then yes, especially. And if it's not, yes, it still would, but not to as intense of a level, unless, of course, the person happens to be in their Ketu Mahadasha with the Mars Antardasha or Mars Dasha with Ketu Antardasha. Okay. Okay, house significator and own significant house, good or bad? Can you tell me what you mean by in own significant house? Can you go a little more into depth with that? I'm not clear on your question. Okay, so let's see what other questions we have. Do we analyze transits from the moon chart? You're going to get clearer. You can analyze transits from the moon chart, definitely get some really good information from that. But in terms of overall things that are going on in the individual's life, analyzing things from the ascendant is most important. Moon will give you a more subjective representation of that. If you do a lot of in-depth work with the nakshatras, you'll find that there's less of a need to really go into doing, readings from the moon lagna or looking at transits from the moon quite as much, because if you work really in depth with nakshatras, you're covering a lot of the lunar aspect of the horoscope. Okay. Mars in own sign in 10th house can help with Ketu's headlessness. Well, Ketu is always going to have that energy, right? But Mars can strengthen that if Mars is conjuncting Ketu, especially. So I know that a lot of people, here's an interesting thing, and this is something that's on the Rahu Ketu course if you're interested in it. It's something that I really suggest getting. Sorry, I just hit my desk. Basically, the whole Ketu Kujavat and Rahu Shanivat, which means Ketu behaves like Mars and Rahu behaves like Saturn. One really good way to work with that on that level is to understand that where Mars rules in the chart is going to show on a certain level a skill that Ketu has to help during Ketu Dasha. Where Saturn rules in the chart is going to be where the person has a lot of survival issues coming to the surface during Rahu Dasha or during Rahu periods. That's really the best way to work with that whole Ketu Mars connection, Rahu Saturn connection. Okay. So let's see some other questions that people might have. It can. Somebody's saying, if I'm going through Moon Mahadasha, would it affect more due to happening in Shravana Nakshatra, which is ruled by the moon? If you have planets in Shravana Nakshatra, especially, okay, or if it triggers your moon, especially. Can I recommend any books on Rahu and Ketu? Not really, because I haven't really read any books on Rahu and Ketu, so I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. But what I would recommend is taking the course, and you can actually register for the course in 1/4 sections. So you can either do it in full or register for 1/4 sections, okay? So again, if you're interested in kind of coping or needing some help in coping with this K2 Mars energy, there is a discount offered on astrological services between now and 10 p.m. tomorrow night, the 12th of September. Here is the discount code for that: VIEWERS in all uppercase letters. VIEWERS. When you go to make payment on my astrological services page, you need to enter that code. Okay. So let's see any other questions that people might have. Pardon me, I need one of these to keep from losing my voice. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. If I'm quiet, it's just because I'm scrolling through people's questions. Somebody saying this transit is on my second house where Mars is exalted in my natal chart. What do I say? It depends upon what dashas you're going through and the strength of those planets. That's why I don't just spout predictions, personal predictions out for people here. Okay? Because it's not going to be, there's not as big of a chance for accuracy. Okay. But again, if you want to schedule an astrological service with me, there's a 10% discount available. Okay. And I have astrological services for all types of sizes of questions. I try to make something for every budget. Okay. Here's the link to my services page for those of you who don't know it. There you go. And somebody's saying, can I ask more questions? Sure, people can ask away. Ask as many questions as you like. I may not get everybody's questions, but feel free to ask questions. Am I a Cancer ascendant? No, I keep my ascendant very secretive. Okay. Well, if Uranus or Neptune gets conjunct with Ketu and Mars aspects it, well, it can intensify and make things very confusing. Okay, it's just a really simple thing, but I'm not going to give necessarily predictions on that because there's just so many factors you'd have to consider. Okay, you have to consider what Uranus, especially what Uranus and Neptune are interacting with themselves by aspect, and you also have to consider the nodal axis. Because as I was saying earlier, the outer planets tend to play out their agenda on a certain level through the nodal axis. Could I write the discount code, please? It is VIEWERS, all uppercase. If for some reason, when you enter that discount code, if for some reason your 10% discount doesn't appear, try viewer. But I believe it's viewers. Okay? And if you go to my astrological services page, you can do that. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Ketu conjunction with Mars, which is in conjunction with natal Rahu. So you mean Ketu transiting Mars, which is in conjunction with natal Rahu? That can bring some pretty intensive karmic stuff, but a lot of it depends upon your dasha, especially if you're in any type of Rahu period or any type of Ketu period. That's going to make it more intense. Okay. Okay, let's see what else people have. Okay, somebody's trying to be a funny person coming in and spamming everybody. Look, don't really bother, because the moment that you come in and start doing that, I click the remove button. Okay? You're just wasting my time and everybody else's. So I don't want to deal with that. Okay. So let's see what other questions people might have. This intense energy interaction will be more during this close conjunction or till Mars and Ketu is in Capricorn. Here's the deal. If you understand that a Navamsha is, I'm not talking about the Navamsha chart. I'm talking about a 1/9 portion of a Rashi. Okay, like 0 to 320, 320 to 640, 640 to 10, etc. When two planets are in the same 3-degree 20-minute section of the sky, their conjunction intensifies, or their aspect intensifies. Okay, that's a good way to understand this. So between the 23rd of September and the 2nd of October, Ketu and Mars are going to be in that same 3-degree 20-minute section of the sky. Okay, and that makes the aspect much more powerful. Okay. Okay, people, don't come in here and waste my time, because like I said, I just remove you. Okay, it's yes. You're just wasting everybody's time. Okay, thank you. Okay, Aquarius ascendant. Okay, Mars and Ketu in the 3rd house. It depends on if this is triggering Mars and Ketu in your 3rd house. And again, I highly recommend scheduling something in with me formally, because then I can give you the clearer answers that you're looking for. Okay. The reason I don't want to analyze it more deeply than that is I don't know what dasha you're in. I don't know what the strength of your dasha planets is. It's just kind of taking a stab in the dark, and I don't like doing that. Okay. All right. Yes, some people just put a bunch of load of rubbish on here. Okay. All right. By the way, people, just, like, ignore these people that come in. They're just wasting time. You hear they grow avocados on Mars. Good. I hope those avocados are good. So, Mr. Vintage, yes, I have been blocking these people, but then they just come in under another name and try to do that because they don't like being blocked. And their agenda is to just come in and ruin everybody else's good time. But that's enough talking about them. Okay. I'm just going to delete them when they come in. Okay, so during Mars Dasha, what result should one expect if Mars is in an enemy sign, combust, and in Aries Navamsha? Well, it depends upon what house Aries is in the Navamsha, and it depends also on the rest of the Varga charts. Okay, so there's so many factors to consider. Okay. So let's see. Does anybody else have any questions? So this is the reason I don't like going into depth with predictions. So somebody's saying, what could be a generic prediction for Mars's transit in Aquarius? Well, seeing things potentially from a clearer perspective and really wanting to get active in regards to that, really wanting to share one's energy with a larger scale of people. But equally, there can be a tendency towards a desire for validation when Mars is transiting Aquarius. Okay, it builds the hunger for validation. Okay, let's see what other questions we've got. Okay. 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 So sorry, just having to deal with some nuisances. Okay, so let's see some other questions. Let's just ignore those people, okay? I already have blocked them. They keep popping up. I've removed them. I have reported them. I have done every single thing. I've hiding the user from this channel. Okay, so there we go. All right, let's focus on us. Let's ignore them. Okay. So once again, if you want to schedule an astrological service with me, most especially in regards to this particular transit time, you can have a 10% discount through my astrological services page. Just enter the discount code viewers, and that is applicable until tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Okay, let's see what other questions. Somebody's saying, sorry, I was late to this. Could I say one more time what sign and nakshatra the Ketu Mars conjunction is currently in and until what date? It depends on if you are a tropical Vedic astrology person or if you are a sidereal Vedic astrology person. For those people who do tropical Vedic astrology, it would be in Aquarius. For those people who do sidereal Vedic astrology, it would be in Capricorn. The nakshatra it's going to be in is Shravana nakshatra. Okay. So let's see. So somebody's saying, is Mars in Aquarius considered in a friend's sign or in the sign of a neutral? Mars considers Saturn a neutral. Okay. A natural neutral. Okay. Let's see if anybody else has any other questions. Sorry, I'm just looking over everybody's questions here. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Ketu in the somebody's asking a general question, which I am going to answer. So Ketu in the second house and Rahu in the eighth. So Ketu in the second house gives an individual a tendency to feel that everything in their life is going to be okay as long as they can be resourceful. As long as they're putting effort and energy out and being resourceful and doing everything themselves, everything is going to be okay. But you can't do everything yourself. Okay. These are the type of people that if you put them on a project, they're going to do the project themselves. Nobody else is going to be able to do anything because the person won't trust the other people to do the other thing. So these people are needing to learn how to be able to connect to other people's resourcefulness and to be okay with that. Okay, so I'm going to have to go, people. So just so everybody knows, once again, I have a Rahu and Ketu course that is now available on my website through the courses link. There's also a Varga course there too for people who are interested. And in addition to that, astrological services 10% discount until tomorrow, the 12th of September at 10 p.m. if you enter the discount code in all uppercase letters viewers. Okay. So I would stay longer, but I have to go for a consultation. So many thanks for watching, and I will talk to everybody the next time that we are on here. Bye now.